Alright, Stage 3, the Haunted House. Having made our way through the jungle, Mickey arrives at the home of the ghost that we met before, and we find Pluto. So they weren't lying when they said they were taking care of him. Pluto's voice is probably the most obnoxious sound I've ever heard in a game. Luckily, you don't hear much of it, but those few instances where he squeaks up are just painful, just awful. But yeah, we also immediately solve the mystery of the circus here when the ghosts just come out and say, "Oh, it was Baron von Pete." So Mickey's detective work not really paying off. Ghosts just up and up telling him it was Pete. Thanks for figuring that out. And we get the final costume, the cowboy outfit. It's kind of cool in a couple of ways, but really obnoxious at the same time. Its main features are shooting bullets, as you can see, and if you hold down the shoot button, which I'll demonstrate here shortly, you do a charge. Enemies with a target on their head, if you shoot them in the target, they'll drop an item, usually small health. Here we go, charging across. I don't think there's a way to do that without getting hurt. But you get over here and there's enough gold blocks to probably entirely refill your health. And we get a big heart anyway, so it didn't really matter. Anyway, the cowboy outfit, the main problem with it is that it spends half of its time not on the ground. And most of your functions like changing costumes or jumping only happen when your character is on the ground. So especially when you're playing with a 3-button controller and the start button is to change costumes, this would get really obnoxious. As you want to change costume and you hit the start button, but you're not on the ground, you're floating above the ground because you bounce on your little hobby horse. And you just pause the game instead of changing outfits. And you could do this 2 or 3 times before eventually getting your outfit changed. This is one of the more, I guess, visually interesting areas in the game. Just this crumbling area that's being destroyed for poorly explained reasons. Maybe it's just haunted and that's why, but yeah, like you can still shoot the enemies not in the target and not get the drops. You have to actually hit the target, which is harder than you would think, because the bullets don't just fly forward, they actually follow this odd parabolic arc where they go up for a little while and then down. And I don't know why they bothered with that in a game this simple. But yeah, even jumping with the hobby horse, you kind of have to be careful to just hold the button so that he'll jump when he hits the ground. And we've reached the mini-boss. This is not Baron von Pete. This is just a painting of Pete. He really only has 2 attacks. Animates books and they fly at you. And breathing fire. Anytime he attacks, you can shoot him in the chin. Bullets do less damage than jumping. I think it's half of a jump of damage the bullets do. So if you just shoot him in the chin, the fight's going to go on longer, but it's easier and a lot safer with this boss, because even at his full duck, you still have to hit him at the top of the jump arc to jump on him safely, or bounce off a book. So this fight is more long than it is hard, especially when he just starts spamming the fire move. It gets really hard to jump on him there without taking damage from the fire. And yeah, even though it's longer than it is hard, it's still not a very hard boss. This introduces another use of the sweeper. These little candle enemies, if you vacuum them, you'll put out the light, and you can jump on them, use them as a platform. Yeah, it's just as easy to stomp on enemies' heads, but you can't jump on the candle enemies because there's fire, and fire hurts. So you do what you have to get across the pits. You don't have to do this very often. The candle enemies do reappear in the last stage. Them with the ghosts being one of the few enemies that actually make repeat occurrences. But yeah, with blocks without handles, you either have to throw something at them or shoot them. Of course, the bullet starts well forward of the Mickey sprite, so it's very possible to shoot straight through something even that big by standing next to it. And coins are nice, but honestly in the shops there's only so much to buy. I'll demonstrate that when we hit a shop here soon. You don't really need most of it. The most helpful stuff is the extra hearts that you can buy. This section is supposed to be a spiral staircase climbing up the tower, but it mostly just cuts off the screen and makes it harder to move forward. Here we have a shop entrance, so I'll show that off. Clarabelle actually runs the shop. It's Goofy's significant other. On either end, for 300 gold, you can reduce the amount of energy used by either the sweeper or the hobby horse by half. I mean, they don't exactly use up a ton of energy already, and energy is doled out really commonly, so they're not really necessary. And for 200 you can get an extra heart, and that's almost always more helpful anyway. Yeah, we are rapidly approaching the boss of the level. It's a ghost. With Pete's face, kind of. Again, basically only has 2 attacks. He'll swoop down at you, or he'll spit little ghosts at you. Ghosts can be used to climb up and bop him on the head. Otherwise, you just shoot him. I don't think the little blue fire actually does anything other than appear when he appears. But yeah, you can pretty much just do this until he's dead, and he'll never get an attack off. Or you can try to jump on his head and screw it up like I did. Yeah, it's just play it careful and you're gonna beat him eventually. There it is. One last pop on the head. And we slide down a zip line that, yeah, not sure how that even is supposed to work. We descend into the caves. And that'll be our next episode. The caves are actually a level that I like more than most of the others, so you got that to look forward to.